defending undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, introducing El Orgulloso Guerrero de Guadalajara, Saúl Canelo Álvarez. Phoenix, Arizona. Two-time WBC super middleweight champion of the world, the undefeated, hard-hitting, current interim WBC super middleweight world champion, known as the Mexican Monster, introducing David El Monstruo Benavidez.
Gives you so much value for money, and Canelo's all about the Benjamins. So I feel like Canelo might look at him thinking, oh, well, okay, so you can put a few bums on seats now, you can sell a few pay-per-views. Now let's talk. Because before you were just a guy that was dangerous and a big mouth. Now you're a dangerous big mouth, but you make me some money. Let's come to the table.
All right, Ron Goodall, FightHype.com. I'm here with my guy, Bernie the Boxer. What's going on, man?
What's good? You know who it is, yours truly.
You know, it's been a while since we did an interview, and I obviously wanted to catch up with you on some of the stuff that you guys have been working on. You guys had always a tremendous stable, but in this particular case, you have Richard Torres that will be coming up fighting in Egypt, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, I know the relationship, you guys have always been there, but I know this is going to be essentially like the camp that you guys will lead him into this fight. So how did you guys, I guess, link up, and how's training camp been?
Well, they had reached out to me. One of his advisors had reached out to me, and they was like wanting to bring somebody in, and you know, they asked me how I felt about it, and I thought, you know, we would be an excellent fit for him, and so it just went like that. It took a little minute, you know.
David, congratulations.
What's the best opponent up to date, right? But what do you think about his opponent, and what do you think this win would do for him?
I mean, it's gonna propel us in the shot for the title, but I don't want to rush to the title. You know, Usyk is a tremendous champion, and Richard, he's still just on the way up. You got what, 14 fights? Yeah. So, you know, they fast tracking him. Frank Sanchez is got that Cuban heritage. He has some good wins. You know, he's coming off a loss to a tremendous fighter like Caballero, but you know, he's still a top contender, and so I think it's a good stepping stone for.
It was very difficult, super hard, and there were so many days that I just want to give up and not do it anymore. It was terrible, but thank God gave me the strength and the patience to keep going and keep trying, and now they became world champions. And
so he has the most important job out of anybody here. He holds my jewelry. And you're not tired, the body can keep going. Everything is mental, everything is in the head. I try not to let any type of weakness in my head, because in the fight, you can't let any type of weakness in. I can't feel my hand. It's a lot of power. Shit, damn, look, this shit look broken. What the fuck?
speed, power. So I gotta fucking have my eyes open.
Yeah, I know the way. You missed that one.
Speed is speed, accuracy. Man, Anthony Yard, you're in trouble, brother. November 22nd, you're gonna find out who's the Mexican.
sit-ups, weights, and then we're done for the day.
You know, this was a strength circuit we designed depending on how he feels from what we just did in boxing, right? So some of the strength units, when we do early in the morning, it's more for like strength. We use like contrast training, like with the trap bar for explosiveness. What you seen today was we did the fascia work, so we did end.
Focus. 80. Come on. This last 20 easy. Come on, David. 7, 8, 9.
You know, we do a couple different ones.
So I bought a hyperbaric chamber so that when you train like this, your body's sore and stuff. So the hyperbaric chamber, you get in there and it pumps your body with oxygen, so it takes the soreness away. And then we get in the cryo chamber and then the red light therapy. Well, because I have some stuff to do right now, I'm not doing that today. But the hyperbaric chamber is an hour.
They're not looking for Canelo. Now, come out and a sense of punch sequence. Because 200, let's see your father.
It was the long arms of Benavidez.
The growing anticipation around a potential clash between Canelo Álvarez and David Benavidez reflects more than just a fight. It represents a collision of two completely different boxing identities, where preparation inside their respective camps reveals a sharp contrast in philosophy, mindset, and execution at the elite level of the sport. As Canelo Álvarez approaches training with calm precision, every movement controlled, every combination measured, focusing on timing, defense, and calculated counterpunching that has defined his legacy, his environment structured and disciplined, built around experience and the understanding of how to control the rhythm of a fight, showing no unnecessary emotion, only quiet confidence shaped through years of competing at the highest level. While on the other side, David Benavidez brings a completely different intensity, his camp loud, aggressive, and driven by relentless pressure, pushing his body through high-volume combinations and non-stop drills designed to overwhelm opponents, reflecting a mindset built on dominance rather than control, where his objective is not just to win rounds but to break opponents mentally and physically through pace and pressure. And as both fighters continue their preparation, the psychological battle begins to take form, with Canelo aiming to slow the fight down, control distance, and capitalize on openings through precise counters, while Benavidez prepares to disrupt that rhythm entirely, forcing exchanges and creating chaos inside the ring, making this potential matchup one of the most compelling in modern boxing, not only because of the skill level involved but because of the stylistic contrast that could ultimately determine the outcome, as experience and composure stand against hunger and relentless aggression, building toward a moment that could define both fighters' legacies. As the build-up intensifies between Canelo Álvarez and David Benavidez, the focus begins to shift beyond training and into the psychological space where elite fights are often decided. Because at this level, preparation is not just about strength or conditioning, it is about composure under pressure, adaptability in real time, and the ability to impose one's will without losing structure. And in that regard, both fighters bring contrasting but equally dangerous mental approaches into what could become one of the most defining matchups in modern boxing, as Canelo Álvarez carries the mindset of a seasoned champion who has already faced and solved multiple styles throughout his career, stepping into each moment with controlled confidence, never rushing, never overcommitting, instead allowing the fight to come to him, trusting his timing, head movement, and defensive awareness to neutralize aggression, which becomes especially important against a fighter like Benavidez, whose entire game is built on pushing opponents out of their comfort zone, forcing exchanges, and maintaining a pace that can break even the most disciplined fighters over time. And inside Benavidez's camp, that intention is clear in every session, where the emphasis is placed on pressure, endurance, and mental toughness, preparing not just to fight but to impose a style that refuses to slow down, a strategy that depends on overwhelming opponents before they can fully adjust, and as analysts begin to break down this potential clash, the conversation consistently returns to one central question: can Canelo control the pace, or will Benavidez successfully turn the fight into a high-volume war? Because that dynamic could ultimately decide everything, with Canelo's ability to dictate distance and counter effectively being tested against Benavidez's relentless forward movement and combination punching. And as the possibility of a face-off draws closer, the tension becomes more visible. As the potential showdown between Canelo Álvarez and David Benavidez draws deeper analysis, the conversation naturally shifts toward the technical elements that could ultimately decide the outcome, because beyond hype and narrative, this is a fight defined by contrasting styles that operate at an elite level, where small adjustments, timing, and ring IQ can change everything within seconds. And when experts break down Canelo Álvarez, they consistently highlight his ability to control distance with subtle footwork, slipping punches with minimal movement, and countering with precision that targets both the head and body, particularly his devastating body shots that gradually wear opponents down, reducing their output and slowing their pace over the course of a fight, making him exceptionally dangerous in later rounds where his patience begins to pay off. And this calculated approach has allowed him to neutralize aggressive fighters before, forcing them into mistakes and capitalizing with sharp, efficient combinations. But against David Benavidez, that strategy faces a unique challenge, because Benavidez does not rely on single bursts of offense. Instead, he applies sustained pressure, throwing in volume, mixing combinations, and constantly advancing, which creates a different type of problem, one that does not give opponents time to reset or comfortably establish rhythm. And this is where Benavidez's strengths become most effective, as he uses feints, high guard pressure, and intelligent positioning to trap opponents along the ropes, where his punch output becomes overwhelming, targeting both the body and head with relentless aggression. Yet what often goes unnoticed is his technical growth, as he has developed better footwork, improved shot selection, and the ability to adjust mid-exchange, making him more than just a pressure fighter, but a calculated aggressor who understands how to create openings rather than simply forcing them. As anticipation continues to build around a potential collision between Canelo Álvarez and David Benavidez, the spotlight begins to shift toward the external pressure surrounding the fight, where media narratives, fan expectations, and legacy discussions start to shape the intensity of the moment even before a contract is signed. Because this is no longer just about what happens inside the ring, it is about what this fight represents for both fighters in the broader landscape of boxing, with Canelo Álvarez standing as one of the most accomplished figures of his era, carrying a legacy built on championship victories, elite opposition, and global recognition, which naturally brings a different level of scrutiny, as every decision he makes is analyzed, questioned, and debated, especially when it comes to facing a dangerous and highly motivated opponent like Benavidez, whose rise through the ranks has been defined by dominance and an aggressive style that fans believe poses a real threat. And as calls for this fight grow louder, the narrative of risk versus reward becomes central, with many questioning whether Canelo should take on a challenge that offers high danger with unpredictable outcomes, while others argue that this is exactly the type of fight that cements greatness, pushing champions beyond comfort and into defining moments. And on the other side, David Benavidez embraces that pressure fully, positioning himself not just as a challenger, but as the fighter, willing to step into the biggest possible moment without hesitation, consistently expressing confidence in his ability to handle the occasion and impose his style against one of the sport's biggest names. And this dynamic creates a compelling contrast, where one fighter carries the weight of legacy and expectation, while the other carries into the hidden dynamics that often decide elite fights. Because at this level, it is not always the obvious strengths that determine victory, but the subtle shifts in momentum, the ability to adapt under unexpected pressure, and the mental resilience to stay composed when the fight does not unfold as planned. And One of the most critical elements in this potential clash is how each fighter responds when their primary strategy begins to break down, with Canelo Álvarez historically showing the ability to make mid-fight adjustments, slowing the pace when necessary, tightening his defense, and finding openings through patience and calculated counters, a skill that has allowed him to regain control even in difficult moments, while David Benavidez thrives in situations where the fight becomes unpredictable, where structure fades and exchanges become more frequent, using his high output and forward pressure to create chaos that forces opponents into reactive positions. And this contrast introduces a key question: what happens if Benavidez successfully disrupts Canelo's rhythm early, or if Canelo manages to slow Benavidez down and reduce his output over time? Because those momentum shifts could completely change the direction of the fight, and beyond tactics, physical factors also come into play, including durability, conditioning, and the ability to maintain intensity across multiple rounds, where Benavidez's pace could become a major advantage if sustained, but also a potential vulnerability if it begins to fade, while creating a strategic balance between output and impact. And as analysts continue to study this matchup, attention also turns toward intangibles, with anticipation continuing to rise around Canelo Álvarez and David Benavidez. The spotlight expands beyond the fighters themselves and into the broader boxing landscape, where fan demand, media narratives, and industry expectations begin to shape the direction of the fight, turning it into one of the most discussed potential matchups in the sport. As debates intensify across platforms about whether this clash will finally happen and what it could mean for the division, because for many, this is more than just a fight, it represents a moment where the best must face the most dangerous, where legacy meets rising dominance, and where the outcome could redefine rankings, future matchups, and the balance of power in boxing. And as public pressure grows, both fighters remain focused on their preparation, yet fully aware of the magnitude of what is being built around them, with Canelo Álvarez continuing to carry the expectations of a global star whose every move is analyzed, while David Benavidez time, the boxing world begins to look ahead, considering what comes next depending on the outcome of such a fight, whether it leads to new rivalries, rematches, or further challenges against top contenders, making this moment not just about a single event, but about the direction of the sport itself. And as the build-up continues, one thing remains clear: the closer this fight gets to becoming reality, the more it captures the attention of fans worldwide, turning expectation into pressure and pressure into a defining moment that continues to grow with every passing day.